right. Should be live. Looks good.
Did you want me to start recording?
Sure.
All right, I am recording.
All right. Well, distractions aside and everything. Uh, this is funny. I have you on the screen over there, but like my camera's over here, so it's always going to look like I'm looking off into the distance. I guess I could change that, but well, maybe we can just start by having you introduce yourself, and then we can jump into the lesson.
Sure. I'm National Master Jesse Cohen, head coach of Summer School of Chess, vice president of the Colorado State Chess Association. My life is chess. I like coaching, and I like trying to get as many kids in chess as we possibly can, especially here in Colorado. That's what I'm about. So
Awesome. I was getting a little bit, it was lagging a little bit. Can you see? You can see me on the camera. So I could turn my camera off if we need
no,
to. Oh, you can't.
no, I don't see you on Google Meet.
Is that
No.
okay? I'm sorry. I
Oh
guess it's probably,
no! You gotta for your stream. You probably need them to see you on there, unless
yeah,
because that's the thing. Unless you have two cameras, it doesn't.
yeah. I didn't think about that. Well, if you want to watch the video later. Okay. So I guess
Did
I
you get
want.
my invite to the classroom? Did you want to review some of those games or?
Oh yeah, I did not get the invite yet. You sent it over chess.com.
No, I sent it over
Oh, Google Meet.
Google Meet.
Oh, sorry. Let me open that.
Yeah, so if you go to Google Meet chat, you should see it.
Yeah, I got it here. Perfect.
There you are. So there you go. So now you have the ability to put in
Yeah.
moves or upload games or whatever.
Okay. Um, yeah, I figured. Yeah, I mean, in general, I figured we could talk about like just your advice on um, increasing elo and getting better. In particular, because I'm stuck at like 1900, trying to hit 2000. That's part of the whole challenge. It's very popular right now on YouTube. You might have noticed, and just a lot of people make content on that. I'm kind of not stuck. I am slowly getting better, but would love to hear your overall, just general advice. Um, and then in particular for that, for like 1900 on chess.com, mind you, we're not talking about over the board. It's been a little while since I played over the board. So your general advice on that, and then specifically with going to 1900 or trying to hit 2000. And then maybe we can jump into some games.
Sure. So my advice is going to seem very counterintuitive in a way. And don't get me wrong, as I say this advice, I am very much guilty of not following it, which I followed it so poorly that I came up with it because it didn't work out well for me. I used to care very, very, very much about winning, 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 and about my rating. And again, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, you have to want to win. You got to be thirsty for it. You got to play to win. You got to go for it. However, if the focus is all on the winning and on the rating, then what ends up happening is it takes you away from the chess game, really, and it compromises your decision making because suddenly you're going to be making different decisions based on the rating of your opponent. And what those rating points could mean for you. And, and then if you're maybe about to win and it's like 1989 or whatever, you're like, oh, this could be it. And then you start freaking out. And it's just like, so for me, I never had goals to hit 2000. My goals were huge. My goals were be state champion. My goals were become a master, be the world champion, be grandmaster, like literally believing that I could be incredible, truly a gift to chess. And then like wanting it and going after it. And the two biggest ways that I did, I just had this idea that if I surrounded myself by master chess, like osmosis, I would kind of absorb it. And so I did this in two ways. Number one, poring over master games, especially master games that I can relate to and by their openings and by their style. So, for
Mhm.
example, for me, I play the Ruy Lopez pretty religiously as white and as black, and I tend to be more of a positional player. So I found Anatoly Karpov. Anatoly Karpov plays the Ruy Lopez for white and black. Anatoly Karpov is more strategical than he is hack and slash tactical kind of player. And so I study a lot of his games. So finding grandmasters, pouring over master games, especially, finding someone you can relate to. And then the other one is I tried to find every opportunity to play masters that I could. So I wasn't focused on my chess.com rating. That kind of came naturally with it.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I have played countless hours of Blitz. It is addicting. I love chess. Don't get me wrong. And I've tried to push for higher and higher ratings. So again, I've tried to do all these things that we're talking about here.
Mhm.
But playing in live tournaments is always going to push you harder. And I would always play in the open section of things. I don't know if you have those. I don't think that they have those same options on chess.com where you can purposely play higher. I guess you could purposely do
Well,
custom seeks so
I
you
have
only play
mine.
certain ranges.
Yeah, I have mine. I think you can only go to like 200 points up, but you can set it. And what I have is I will not, it won't pair me with anyone that's more than 20 points, ELO points lower, but I can go up to 200 points higher. So almost all of my opponents at the moment are stronger players. But yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
about
no, that is
playing.
that is definitely good. Absolutely.
Mm,
So I mean, yeah, I mean, you're doing that stuff right. I mean, you're probably doing a lot of stuff right, but the focus on the number is what's going to get you because Magnus Carlsen says that nobody wins a chess game unless somebody makes a mistake. And the two biggest reasons why people make mistakes are time, energy.
mm,
It is my job as a chess player to do whatever I can within the rules of chess to make you burn time and energy faster than me and more than me. So if I can put you in a difficult situation, you're going to naturally be stressed out, probably about the situation, and you're going to be burning time trying to calculate through it. In a game, it could be your physical presence. If you're very confident in the physical game, I suppose, then that might cause stress on your opponent.
mhm.
There's all sorts of stuff, I suppose. Um, and so, I guess what I'm saying is, when you focus so much on the rating, you are naturally stressing yourself out, and that is depleting your energy resources, which is only going to increase the probability of you making bad moves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've all felt that. We have all felt that, especially when we're close to breaking through. Um, so again, for me, and again, it's easier to say this, but if you got to focus on what you're trying to actually get out of the game on a non-rating level. Like,
Mhm.
I'll ask you, what are you working on? Like when you play a chess game, do you have goals for yourself outside of winning and making your rating higher?
Yeah. I think it's a really good question. And I really appreciate your take on the more psychological aspect to this because I've actually said that myself a lot on like emphasizing too much. It's like a very Zen mentality. If you're focused on the result, you're guaranteed to do worse in anything that you do. But I myself have, just by nature of this little challenge I made myself for YouTube to try to reach 2000 Elo. I mean, I had to find something that seemed interesting, but especially as like I gave myself a year as a goal to see if I could reach 2000 on chess.com, and that year is coming to an end. It's like 38 days left or something. And so there definitely has been more emphasis the closer I've gotten to 2000, as well as just as it gets closer and closer to that goal to try to, oh, I'm so close. And there's more focus on the rating. And I am 100. I mean, I'm constantly fascinated by why I go on, when you go on a winning streak, what happens when you're just unstoppable. And I basically just came down from a winning streak where I felt like 1900s, 2000s, I felt like I always started with better positions. I felt confident. And then, sometimes I would just get too low on time or whatever. Now, you know, dropping back down to like 18 something. Now I'm on a bit of a losing streak. And I notice that I just constantly feel less confident. I'm questioning my moves. wondering like, oh, maybe I'm blundering. Um, but my goals, to answer your question, outside of the challenge, definitely were um, really just to try to play the best chess that I can at my level until kind of overcome, my own limitations. Because for me, that's the biggest challenge with chess is that you you really, it seems you can play a lot and not really get better if you're not analyzing your own mistakes and trying to find out what you're doing wrong to improve. And for me, that's just been much more pronounced than any other sport or any other undertaking that I've had. Like if you don't really try to understand what mistakes you're making and repeating, I mean, you just don't really seem to get better. So, and I noticed that the biggest peaks of my rating or when I go on winning streaks, oftentimes it'd be after like a lesson or some kind of shift in my mentality where all of a sudden I'm just playing way better. And but yeah, for me, I think that although yes, gaining rating would be nice, being considered like a more serious chess player, it's great. But I also just want to, play a solid game and be able to do that and think, okay, like I did the best that I could. It's not perfect, but I'm not, looking back. Like if I were to share my last game that I just played, I'd be like, let's not look at that. That I know exactly what I did wrong, and it's just silly. And I'd rather be at the point where I'm like, you know what, I did my best. I think it was pretty good. Now let's look at what I could still improve on. So,
So you mentioned a lot of good things. The thing that you have going for you on a general basis is a good effort and attitude, which if you don't have that, you that those are like the essential building blocks of, making progress. However, when you tell me that your goal is just to play the best that you can, I'll ask you a simple question. How do you measure that? How do you know if this game you played better or that you gave it more than this game or that game? How do you measure that? How do you know if you achieved it?
honestly, it's kind of a maybe a crude response, but mostly, not only, but mostly, uh, the accuracy and then specifically how many mistakes or blunders or inaccuracies the computer is picking up on. Um, that would be the probably the first gauge of or measurement that I would
But
use.
how do you know? I mean, like that those are outside indicators. How do you, Mr. Wesley, know?
I would say
Because
that.
this is about this is about like exerting yourself, right?
Mm,
I think what I'm getting at is I think realistically it's I don't know how you would. If you were a track runner, then you could, hope maybe you could try to feel it and you could definitely see your time and stuff like that. So I guess there's that. But like
mm,
when I set goals for myself in chess and for my students, they are uh, much more quantifiable and they are usually achievable. So let me just give you for example. So if I know about myself that I need to improve in the area of space, I'm not very good when it comes like I just find that I don't take space very well in my games. I very rarely have a space advantage. I don't seem to use it well. I don't know,
mm,
anything like that. Then I might give myself a very, very simple goal of like, okay, well, you know what? For the next 10, 20, whatever games I'm going to play, I'm going to really just forget my openings. I'm just going to grab as much space as I can and I'm going to try to remember the strategies associated with space. So I'm very, very Silman based. And so it'd be like, okay,
mm,
I'm going to get space. And he says I'm supposed to not trade pieces. So I got to push pawns. That's how I gain space. I have to look for ways to keep pushing them slowly but surely. I got to not trade pieces. I have to take away squares from my opponent's pieces so that I'm just kind of restricting them more and more and squeezing them like an anaconda. And then I'll just play like 10, 20 games, be like, okay, And then I'll kind of be like, how did I take, like, how did the space gain go there? Was I successful at taking space? Was I successful in avoiding those trades? Like, how did that go? And try to evaluate that. But I can give myself kind of specific goals. I mean, for certain people, they, if they're being really honest with themselves, their calculation is really lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we might give a calculation goal. Okay, like every single move, I'm going to make sure that I calculate 2 moves at a depth of 1.5, which would mean that I'm going to look at 2 candidate moves for myself. I could play this one. I could play this one. And before I make my move, I have to calculate my move, their response, my follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second move, my move, their best response, my follow-up. And then I have to quantifiably hold myself accountable for actually pushing my calculations.
Right.
There are all sorts of ways, and we all need to do these things. We all need to push our calculations. We all need to hold ourselves accountable for how are we doing in terms of searching for tactics? Because I mean, chess is really 2 parts: tactics, strategy. How are we doing in terms of searching for tactics? How are we doing in terms of searching for strategy and plans? And trying to find a quantifiable way to give ourselves this goal and try to, as best as we can, hold ourselves accountable. So like, for example, with that whole calculation one, if that was really yours, I'd be like, okay, put a piece of paper next to you and a piece of pen, or a piece of paper and a pen, and like write down 1 through 40. So that's probably how many moves your game is going to do. And for every single time that you actually do, calculate that two moves, depth of 1.5. Put a check mark next to the number. And then at the end of it, how many check marks did you get out of the possible 40 or whatever? And then you can even start a spreadsheet to see, is that percentage going up?
Right.
Am I calculating more or am I actually calculating less? There are ways, if you really want to be specific, to give yourself, instead of rating oriented goals, give yourself skill oriented goals. What skill in chess are you working on, and how are you holding yourself accountable? And if you can do that, you're going to see the rating will take care of itself. And then the other part is, again, what you mentioned. The other part is psychological. Not only have you, by setting, I mean, again, don't get me wrong. If this challenge is working for YouTube, do it. I mean, again, I mean, like, I think there's a reason Mr. Beast's like, no, like, if you were to offer him, like, let's just say $9,000 from me, like, no, it's got to be 10. Like, for some reason, it's got to be the magic. There are certain numbers that ring with people trying to get 2,000,
Right.
whatever. But if you're actually going to achieve it, you've got to find a way to take that pressure back off yourself and just be like playing chess like any other time. Otherwise, like you said, not only do you have to overcome this rating and am I going to get enough points for this and all this stuff, but oh God, there's 30 days left. And what if I don't perform? And and just like, you are making yourself burn through so much energy that your ability to play good chess just keeps going down.
Yeah.
And so you'd have to find a way as a creator as well to, like, present this, but also still be totally chill about it. Even and be okay if you fail at it.
Right.
Totally okay if you fail at it.
Well, I think that people do. Oh, go ahead.
No, like I said, just focusing on those minor goals. Like, for the channel, yeah, we're gonna break 2,000. But in your head, and even for your audience, you're like, the way we're gonna break 2,000 is that I'm working on these goals.
Right. Yeah. A couple things. I love that. First of all, that advice, it's really fresh, and I don't think I've really considered that. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I have used for mostly like for training. Like, okay, I do 3 puzzles, I do this. I kind of made my own little, training program. And that has helped just because I think there's something to be said for really, like, I'll write the mistakes down, like the big mistakes that I made, and try to like go over those the next day or something. But I love the, like, very quantitative goals instead of just gaining elo or vague goals, or rating oriented goals. And then I think that for the videos, I think I could be wrong, people can let me know, but do really enjoy, like, when I put what I'm doing. I made one video just on what I was doing to train or whatever, and it definitely got more views at that time than any other video. So I think the people actually do really like to see that, not just, oh, watch me grind to try to reach 2000 elo, but how exactly am I doing that? That's the other, it's a very, very popular video, is like how to get to 2000, and then different people saying different things, giving different advice. Um, but yeah, I think that's very interesting and would probably help me, because at the moment, if I had to guess what is blocking me, is pressure, too much pressure. And I'm very focused on the things that are going wrong. Like my time management right now is awful. I am a pretty good blitz and bullet player, but for some reason when I play rapid, even a 10-minute, sometimes 15-minute, 10-second increment, I just want to take my time, and I just don't manage the time well enough. So I always get into these time scrambles. Sometimes I play really well at the end there with time scrambles, but I'm consistently like down on the clock. Um, and I'm just very focused on, okay, I gotta play faster. I gotta do this. This is, and I sometimes that helps, but yeah, I gotta be honest. At the moment, it is something's not quite going right. And I know sometimes you like maybe you're in that period where you're absorbing a lot, and so you have that natural decline, and then sometimes you get like the spike afterwards. It's like, at least in my experience, that seems to happen sometimes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I love that. So
Two things I want to point out just really quick to answer your questions. And if you want to focus on the time, so when I am playing a game of chess, I don't look at the clock very much. I
mm,
glance at it. And that's because I'm used to different time controls. And so I kind of know the pacing. Now, the nice thing is that when you put in a bunch of blitz and bullet, the volume you're putting in is so much you kind of get that pacing. So you got that bullet like go, 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 you gotta
yeah.
go. And when you're bullet blitz, you're like, okay, gotta go, okay, gotta go, and you kind of get that pacing.
Yeah.
Like, what I would recommend is, and I haven't done the math on this, is like, for your average 40 move game, like what, or I don't know, like for a rapid game, 10-minute, 15-minute, or whatever, like about how much time should I be spending on average each move?
Hmm.
And if you really want to be like hardcore trainer, like be like almost like MMA or whatever, you'd have like a timer going off, like you'd know, like on average, you should be moving every 20 to 30 seconds. So at every single 20 seconds, it's like bam, bam, bam. And you're like, okay, got to make a move. And
Right.
then, every 20 seconds. And then as long as it's on your time, when it goes bam, 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 you're like, okay, I got to make a move. And you start getting used to that pacing.
Hmm.
Now, because that's really what it is. And the reason you get used to the pacing is that if I keep staring at the clock, I'm getting stressed out, I'm burning energy, I'm getting anxious, all that stuff. But if I just kind of like glance at it, I'm just like, okay, just rolling with it. I kind of know what my pacing is. All right.
Hmm.
And then again, as you get better at it, you'll be like, okay, critical moment. I'm going to take more on this one. But with the pacing I've been doing, I know that I can do that. Second thing is this. This is way back. You were talking about improving off of mistakes. There's a very, very
Right.
specific technique I'd like to share with you. This is not mine. This comes from Lev Albert. But he calls it the grand compendium. This is a specific,
Hold on. Sorry,
I
Jesse. My
believe,
internet
the
seems to be
Grandmaster can.
freaking out here. I wonder if
Oh,
I was worried about this, but I'm trying to think what I can. My video's already turned off on Google Meet. And it's okay. Maybe it's better now. All right, sorry. Go ahead. It cut off. Started breaking up after like said something. Albert, his name was.
oh yeah. So Lev Albert, I think he's like 2 or 3 time U.S. champion. He came from like the Soviet Union, and he brought a lot of chess training secrets. And he said that for their children grandmaster candidates and stuff like that, they would have them do the specific exercise. And basically, as you're going through your studies and looking at master games and looking at certain
Ah.
ever, or you're looking through your own game, it's like, man, I really missed the ball on that one. Like this was an important moment, and I just missed it. It is the nature of humans to forget. It is just the nature of us humans. And so he recommends this thing called the Grandmaster Compendium, where you literally make a diagram of the position that is instructional, that is crucial, that you don't want to forget for some reason, and you print it out. And then you cut it out and you put it somewhere that you're going to pass by several times a day just naturally. Maybe, again, your computer screen, maybe your bathroom, something you're going to pass by at least a couple times a day. And every time you pass by it, you have to look at this, you have to look at the position and be like, that, I remember this. This is what happened. This is why it's instructional, whatever. And then just go about your day. At the end of the week, you're supposed to take that diagram and put it in a binder. And if you're really on top of your game, you're supposed to sort them by category. Like, try to come up with some category. Like, this was a good example of classic bishop sacrifice. This is a really good example of positional pawn sacrifice, or pass pawn, or domination of an open file, or rook and pawn ending, or whatever that you try to label it. And then, like, once a month, you open up that binder and you have like a day of review where you're just like, that position, oh yeah, that position, and you just reflect on this. And he's like, it's because it is human nature to forget. And if we don't, and again, this is like the thing we all hate in school is review. Like, I got to review. There's a reason you gotta. It's just because it goes away. It's unfortunate. It's not our fault, but that is the key. Otherwise, like you said, you will keep making the same holes in your thinking will continue to remain holes in your thinking.
Right.
This is how we fill in those holes.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, there's probably a lot that goes into that. I know I studied psychology, and I had some of my teachers specialized in memory. So I know like a couple things. Of course, I forgot, funny enough, I forgot a lot of that information that I learned, but like the gist of it that sticks is that to actually get things into your long-term memory, which is possible. And it's just like, and that I've noticed that even with chess, of course, you like certain pattern and pattern recognition. Some things, once they really stick, they're there, they stick. And but then you have all these other things like your openings. Especially for me, it's openings. I'm like trying to just drill sometimes and just go over my openings. And to be honest, I have not found a great way of doing it, but I know that the more I do it, like I just have to get it to the point where it's more automatic and more in long-term memory, because if not, then, I'm going to forget it. And of course I can't remember everything, but, yeah, I like that idea though. I certainly haven't put anything up. I used to do that for languages, like learning a language. Super good to do that kind of stuff. It's kind of a similar process, trying to make things
Yeah, my
stick.
buddy is like, and his wife are learning Spanish, and so they've started labeling like all the things around their house with little labels of Spanish.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's similar. It's definitely trying to remember a foreign word that you have no attachment to. It means nothing because it's completely foreign. Depending on the word, sometimes it sounds similar, but you have to find some way to get it in there.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, is there any games you want to specifically look at, or any other topics you want us to tackle first?
I thought, well, we could look at a couple games, but I thought it would be interesting if we just play maybe, and even like a game or two. If you,
I mean, we can. That's not typically how I coach. I typically don't see a lot of value in that. If
okay,
you want for your viewership, we can. But in terms of coaching, I would be much more beneficial to you if I looked at your games and saw what you need to be working on so that you can set those specific game goals to work on.
sure, yeah.
I mean, that's just, I mean, and the reason is that if we play one game, I might see one little issue here or there. But if I look at a few of your games, I might start to see a pattern emerge. So I can be like, okay, this is repeatedly happening. You need to set a little goal here.
Okay, yeah.
Again, but again, this is your time. So if you want to play, if that's what you want, we can do that.
No, that's fine. For next week, by the way, I think that we did want to play, and it would be more for just like viewership and also learn a thing or two, but just because simply I think it'd be interesting to watch how I think and analyze compared to you, a national master. And then
no promises if I suck. Just remember, I focus on helping others, not so much helping myself. So
we don't.
That's another, I guess that's another secret reason is that like I don't want it to be bad games. Like they won't be bad, but like I don't want anyone to be like, I was expecting more from this guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because I focus on being a coach and less as a player these days.
Yeah. No worries. Let's I play, well, I don't know if I should leave the lesson or if I can, no,
Well,
I'm gonna
you
plug it
have the
in.
if
Yeah.
you have the ability to add games and load them from your archive.
Yeah. I'll do the last one, even though I just said I hated it. Because it was some very silly mistakes, but let's plug this in.
Almost every single time that a student tells me it's not worth looking at, I find a lot of great reasons why
You're
it's
pro-
worth looking at.
yeah, you're probably right. I don't know why. I always have that problem. Whenever I would have a lesson, I would think, no, but I know what I did wrong. I don't want to. Okay. Well, how do I plug it in here? Add games.
And you're probably right, but I might see a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like the patterns. I think that. Okay, it's not. I added the
Yeah, I was
game.
saying if you're able to load, I mean, you can do as many as you want to, but the more games that you can let me kind of go through, the more I'm going to be able to spot some stuff for you. Because again, just like you're talking about pattern recognition, I'm looking for patterns of mistakes or
Yeah.
patterns of yeah.
So I added a game. Yeah, this is it. And I will let you check it out.
So first thing that I find interesting, I guess, is that you seem like you're a London player, but you play C4, and C4 is totally playable if they're playing oddball openings. So like your opponent's not playing an oddball opening, he's playing the King's Indian. So to play C4 is totally fine, but it's a bit different. Usually I would see, just standard um, London here, except for one thing. Because of this arrangement, oftentimes they will play for e5, and so if we put our bishop on the classic square like
Right.
here, then what often can happen is something like knight bd7, castles kingside, c6 here, queenie here, and then we're suddenly not paying attention. Suddenly we get whacked by
Yeah.
e5, save our bishop, get forked over here. So usually what ends up happening is people play bishop to e2. Seeing the c4 is a bit interesting. Knight
I might
b7,
be confusing it
castles.
with the Grunfeld. I had learned from another coach, but I honestly, I, I just thought I remembered it was C4, with D4 against certain, maybe not. Well, I don't know if Grunfeld's is it a King's Indian setup, but yeah, this
I think so.
line, you'll see what
No, well,
happens
it's
because
it's similar. The Grunfeld is d4
D5,
here, here, d5. Whereas so this is where the Grunfeld happens. Whereas if it was standard King's Indian, why is that running? Shouldn't be running. Whereas if it was standard King's Indian, it'd be bishop g7, e4, d6 kind of stuff.
right? Okay.
Bishop e2, okay. Here, take. Interesting choice. Why are we taking?
So I've played this line, and I'd be interested because if it's totally wrong, but according to the computer, I just
No,
learned
it's
it that
not
it's
wrong. I'm just
takes
curious if
takes
because there's
knight
there's two
take.
ways.
So yeah, I go takes, knight takes, queen takes. If they go that way, rook takes, then bishop takes. This guy did
Okay.
something else. Um, so I had to
Wow.
figure out what to do there because I hadn't seen that. I rarely ever see that move or anything other than taking because sometimes I think they just don't see that you can
This
force
is
the.
probably all wrong. That's the first move that comes to my mind.
No, that's the best move.
Um, Again, just pattern recognition. But again, so two things I'd be thinking here, I suppose. Tactics. The reason I noticed f7 is that it's tactically vulnerable. Things that are tactically vulnerable are pieces that are not protected, pieces that are only guard just enough. So the fact that f7 is only guard just enough and it's by the king, of course, I'm also noticing this.
Mhm.
So again, these 2 points do stand out to me. Um, and yeah, and then positionally speaking, you're up a pawn, but your opponent has more development, and so if you can just trade off and kind of squash their development stuff, it should be good. Again, I don't see all the lines here, but it did call out. This seems fine
Mm.
here, and then it's probably still good, but this is still fine too. I see nothing wrong with this. Okay. Um, I guess it's just a matter of opinion, maybe. I mean, trading and just castling seems pretty solid. I mean, we can win that pawn whenever we want to. I'm just thinking to myself that, again, in terms of chess, tactics, imbalances, I don't see any tactics here yet. I mean, unless somehow this still works. And so I'm thinking about what's going on in the position. White's up a pawn, black has better development. And so by us trading off and catching up in development very, very quickly, that just seems to be the most logical thing to do. And then we're just up a pawn, and black has nothing to crow about except, I guess, maybe a bishop pair. Taking on h5 here. Oh,
Yeah.
really passive, reactive, ouchy moves, so we don't like to see. I like that despite all this, you still stay pretty focused on. So that now I wouldn't trade queens, funny enough. Now I'm definitely playing queen h4. You started all this like king side, dark square. It's like, okay, let's go back to imbalances. What do you have in this position that's good for you? You have dark square control around black's king, and in that sense, the king safety as well. If you trade off the queens, that does a major blow to the dark squares. Now, granted, like they might, I mean, they're not really going to take here because of rook g4. And if they do nothing, I might do this really slow idea or maybe something like that. I don't know, but I definitely don't want to give up on. I mean, I don't at this point. I want to keep that dark square control going.
Right.
Can we actually draw this? We want to think offhand it's a bishop of opposite color, so it should be drawn, but we're really far away from those connected pass pawns.
Yeah.
Well, now they made it really easy. Because now we can blockade. Because once that's like there, the bishop just gets to b2 and can block these, and so that's going nowhere. I mean, this should all devolve into a draw. It really should. This should just be a draw. There's always a chance. Oh, well, they totally messed that up. So,
I got
okay.
lucky there at the end, that's for sure. I was not planning on having an endgame to begin with, but.
So again, it's little things. Number one, it'd be a question of openings. Did you actually play this correctly? I'm going to guess no. Rook e8 seems terribly wrong, if you ask me. I'm not 100% sure about it all. But the bishop e2 to entice them to play that blunder, I guess, is pretty cool. So I do like that. Again, just, the little tactic there. And but, I mean, the biggest moment, again, like if we're going to make a Grandmaster Compendium position, it's this. Yeah, definitely.
This move I missed completely, and then I just tried to damage control as much as possible, trying to still get castle.
Now here's the thing: I didn't see queen d3 as like I want to tell you right now. I didn't see queen h5, queen takes h5, queen d3. Ooh, that's too much. Don't do that. I just saw that by playing queen takes queen and castle queenside, I am playing simple, clear-cut chess that clarifies the position and continues to wield my advantage, and with the belief that I probably can win that someday. I don't need to pick it off right now.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I mean, I don't know, just to make sure I'm not totally off my crazy horse. How are we doing for analysis here?
The analysis.
Knight b5, knight d5. I guess that's interesting, but queen takes d7, queen takes h5. I guess they're comparable. But like if you want to go just, I guess to see that. Wait, where is it now? Queen takes h5. I guess we really like how far down the road does this want to go? I'm just curious. No, wait. No, where'd it go? That's not what we were doing. With the queen d3. Oh, it's saying if knight d5, that you had to play. It's like, yeah. So like, if you're gonna do this, you have to play. I guess it works if you're willing to play super hyperactive.
Yeah, I saw that, and I mean, I would have felt easier if my king was castled.
Yeah, again, like I didn't even consider these lines because I'm just like, I sense the risk. Right. I sense the complication. And I just, again, if I see, I don't know. Maybe that's part of my style as well. And again, that's why I like Karpov. When I see clear cut ways to just improve my position and leave my opponent little to do, I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
again, it's like, yeah.
I don't know if I think that well, you could maybe tell me afterwards, but I feel like I'm kind of a mix between tactical and positional. I've tried to work more on my positional uh, play, but I also, if I see like more, well, forcing lines, of course, and just simplifying when I know I'm up a pawn and I can just simplify trade down to a winning end game or something, I'm going to choose that rather than a move like knight d5. I kind of see those as just like, okay, that's such a computer move. I would never think to, with my king out in the open, my queen kind of offside, to play that.
I
But
mean, I wouldn't say knight d5 is the most computer move in the world. I mean, they are threatening bishop takes c3, and knight d5 is hyperactive. And
mm,
computers typically like to be hyperactive. They like to somehow find a way to play the most aggressive, forward, active move possible, and then find calculation that justifies it, which is not a bad way to go about things at all. So again, if it was me, again, this is where you have to mix. You have to like combine find the gold amongst the computer. Because if you just look at computer analysis here, you'd be like, well, obviously knight b5 and knight d5 just win, but it creates unnecessary complications. Whereas at least for me, if I play queen h5 and allowed the queen d3 stuff, I would make a grandmaster commanding position, be like, in this position, even though it totally is okay, I played queen takes h5, but I didn't have the fervor, I didn't have the energy needed afterwards, and the complicated tactical calculations down to make sure that it was all going to be okay.
mm.
And maybe if it was a long game and you had time to think it all through, then so be it. But especially in like a rapid game, if I'm making a decision every 20 seconds, then I've got a complicated decision and a simple decision.
Right.
So I choose the simple decision.
Right.
Okay, next game.
It'd be cool to let me pull a game with black. For black, I basically at the moment exclusively play Scandinavian against e4 with the knight f6 line, and that's let's see here, pretty recent. I used to play the queen a5 line, and then just like my d5 is terrible. If I face anything d5, let's see, I need to be the black pieces. Okay. This should work. Yeah. All right, so I just added this game. I think you're the only one that can move to the game.
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah, looks like it.
Oh, terrible. People actually still play c4. What is this? This is so bad. Interesting move.
This is already out of theory very early on. I have tried to take a good amount of time to learn the theory for this, because you can get a lot of traps and stuff, but this was just like a crazy game.
Might be a waste, maybe. I guess there's c5. Okay. Now we get. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's cool.
I miscalculated though. I think I thought I had force mate.
Yeah, that's still really, really good though. I mean, you don't even at this point. Yeah, I mean, like you're just completely okay. Did you feel like you played poorly?
No, not necessarily. I was just grabbing, one of the black games, because I still think that there's.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that happens. So I have.
So okay, so I mean, like, realistically speaking, you wiped the floor with him, and then we made a blender in time pressure.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Hard to say why this is happening.
Let's do something really quickly here. Let's see where you're spending your time. You spent 1:22 on this. Is queen a5 a totally interesting move? Yes. However, to spend a minute 20, to spend 10% of your time, that much, if you're like supposed to be making moves like every 20 to 30 seconds, to spend that much time would indicate that it's more of a critical decision. So I
Hmm.
don't know if I would say this is a critical moment, but we'll go with it. 36 seconds on this, that's fine. That's reasonable. Bishop d4. Pushing it, but it's fine. It's fine. Fine. Fine, 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 fine.
Yeah, and on my screen, the
Guess you're not. 40 seconds. Yeah. I mean, I guess one other thing I would say is this. If there's one thing I ever really just kind of glance at, it's my time relative to their time.
Mhm.
And if it's not a critical move, like as Hikaru and even Carlson have said, that I'm going to misquote this stuff, unfortunately. It's basically like if, in general, as a general concept, if you can take a reasonable amount of time to make a reasonable move or an excess amount of time to make a fine move, most cases it's going to be better to make the reasonable move in a reasonable amount of time
Mhm.
because you make too many of those fine moves and you suddenly get in terrible time pressure. And then when a critical moment does come up, you don't succeed at it because you don't have the time and resources to do it.
Mhm.
Here's a coaching technique if you want to do this on your own. It's hard to do it by yourself. It's easier with a coach, but this is the only time management drill I've ever found in my life. It's by international master Mark Deveretsky, and what he does is he gives a student a piece of paper with 4 puzzles on it. The puzzles should be challenging, appropriate to the student's level. Um, the student sets a timer for 20 minutes. You solve a puzzle. When you think you've got it, you pause the clock. You check your answer. If your answer is wrong, depending on how wrong it is, you have to subtract up to 8 minutes off your clock. Because when you make bad moves, you're usually going to have to pay for it later with a bad position where you have to take more time anyway.
Mhm.
And so the goal, of course, is to get all puzzles done within the time allowed.
Mhm. Okay.
So I would definitely recommend that because again, like you're not spending a terrible amount of time. However, I mean, as you just kind of look, it's like it's 9 to 5:40. Okay, like quick move. Okay, Queen C7 is pretty obvious. It's like somehow we took 22. Like it might not seem like much, but taking like if the average is 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds, that means that you're gonna have moves where you take like 5 seconds. Playing like 20 seconds on this move, unless there's something complicated to see, probably it's little ways that we're burning stuff here. Yeah, so to me, this just seems like your pacing is just it's not terrible. Again, the moves are great. I'm like really like you're kicking his butt. Like it literally only comes down to time pressure. And again, I guess the last thing I would say is this is that if you have this position, you have 2 minutes. Okay. You start moving fast. You like not like crazy fast, but you gotta play fast, reasonable moves.
Mhm.
In this position, the goal is to trade.
Yeah, I was trying to trade for my life to get just the queens off the board so I can worry less about, a huge blunder.
Yeah, I mean just and then you got to trade the queens. And then even from here, like we should be able to play relatively quickly, I would think. And this was all good. It was all gravy. And then we play, and then we play. Yeah, I mean, again, realistically speaking, like, do you have any games where you struggled in terms of the chess that you remember? Because this
Um,
game, again, realistically speaking, I have very little commentary to give about this game. I think that it's pretty cool. Actually, I have a lot of respect for your rook takes d6 idea. That was pretty cool and ambitious. Respect. Yeah.
my worst games would probably be against D4 because my theory, I don't study the lines as much. But I do know,
Okay.
take a look. I had a few opponents I lost to. Some of them a little bit fishy, but let's see here. Yeah, so like, okay, I for sure struggled here because I'm terrible against the English, so maybe we could use that. I mean, I attribute a lot of this just simply to it being in English, and I don't feel confident against it. I know, like, I think generally what to do, kind of, but maybe I'm wrong. So let's plug that one in. Oh, what's happening here? I didn't get the EGN. All right. Does that switch the view for you? When
What?
I just flipped the board, but I don't know if that does that for you or not.
It
Because
doesn't. It doesn't flip it for me.
okay,
In fact, I actually like to look at it from your opponent's point of view. This is another technique I use. Scientifically speaking, your brain will like. There's this famous scene in Dead Poets Society, famous Robin Williams movie. He has all the students stand on their desks, and he tells them that when you look at the world differently, you will think about the world differently. And literally from a scientific point of view, that when your eyes take in that information, they will interpret the information in different, it'll process information differently depending on how you look at it. So very often during my live games, even on my online games, I will flip the board,
right,
look at it from my opponent's perspective. Sometimes it's simple as, man, if I was them, I would not want to see this move happen. And I'm like, okay, cool.
right. I do that
Um,
too. I wish that was possible. I don't know. I mean, you could get up and walk around and like over the board, but
oh, I do.
I guess there's
Like
nothing that
during
stops
my
you.
games in a live game, I mean, I find especially if it's a critical moment or
Right.
if my opponent is taking an exceptionally long time to think, I might get up and move my body and I might come around the board and I might look at it from their point of view. In
Yep.
fact, if you were playing me a game of chess in a tournament, it is almost a certainty that a couple times during that game, I will look at it from your perspective.
Very interesting.
Left 4 and e5 are coming. Your bishops are nicely placed, though. Then again, so are theirs. Their center is nice as well. I don't know why they keep refraining from e5, but they gave you the d file. And now, I mean, it should probably just be a draw. I mean, the only thing going on here at all is black's slightly better pawn structure.
Yeah,
Well,
that's right. I blundered here.
do you know why that was a blunder?
Yeah, I mean, after analyzing, it was I didn't at the time, and I think I took a while here, if I remember, because what did I play? So I played
Yeah,
pawn takes,
this would be a
and
gram.
then I
This
could
would
have
be a
just
gram
pushed the pawn.
position.
I think I literally, again, I believe I was getting low on time because my screen's all messed up. So I think my clock is at 2 minutes, right? My opponent has 1 minute, or no, I'm at 1 minute 40
Right now,
7 seconds.
you have slightly more time than your opponent, actually.
Okay,
Well,
so
let me just ask you this: what should black's plan here be?
um, my plan is that would be that I don't know about trading off the bishops, but he's got these two, separated pawns. I've got the majority here on the queen side, so just basically finding a way to push them and keep the king from stopping any of these going too far. Trading bishops if possible, as long as my pawns on the queen side, if I can create a pass pawn and push that thing. That was generally my thinking, I believe.
No, yeah, I mean, in this position, I'm way happy about black's bishops compared to white's bishops. They are carving into white's king's position, which it's not a safety issue for him. However, they definitely have better scope, and they're preventing him from activating into the game.
Right.
I can see this bishop just sitting here on e3, all happy, just covering a bunch of stuff. You're very, very right that the only real differences here to fight for is white's unbroken kingside pawn majority, which they should try at a certain point to try and mobilize and make a pass pawn. And then you have a queenside pawn majority and some weak pawns here. And so in this position, you already have better bishops than them. I'd like you to keep it that way. You have to find a way to activate your king. You need to find a way to mobilize this faster than them mobilizing this. And if possible, to target these pawns. And
Right.
so if you know what you're supposed to be working towards and you can find moves that work towards them, like, okay, well, can I find any way to activate my king? Okay, can I find any way to target these pawns? Okay, can I find any way to mobilize these pawns? I'm quickly trying to ascertain what is it that I have that's good? How am I trying to make use of it? And what strategically is going on in this position that also informs me. So without anything else, it would just be target these pawns and push these pawns because these are weak and I have more than you do. So I'm trying to make use of the good things I have. Because it's an end game, I throw in the whole activate the king and you got to try to make a queen faster than they are making a queen.
Right.
And so C5 doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, sorry, I should be more clear. It does make some sense. You are mobilizing your pawns. However, it's a poorly timed idea just because of this bishop. Like, if I'm sitting in this position, I'm probably playing like bishop e3, and I'm finding a way to activate my king. I'm either coming in this way, maybe. I guess there's bishop h3 potentially, or I'm going to play potentially for here. I might drop this bishop back to here, just make sure that they don't have e6.
Yeah.
And then, I might be trying to find ways to tickle the pawns. I don't know. I'm definitely playing around with some of these ideas. I might even play g5 at a certain point, depending. Only because that would give my king some ways in.
Right.
Maybe, depending. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts. But c5, and then the reason this is such a blunder, a5 is really smart on their part, and you should definitely play bishop c7 here. Although you're just yeah, we just go down a pawn, unfortunately. a5 is a sweet move on their part because either you go down a pawn or you go into this position, which essentially is down a pawn. You can probably hold this position still, but no, that was a really good move on your opponent's part, that a5 move.
I didn't even see the winning move here apparently, and I guess I just got low on time. I don't know why, but is that I just push a5? Yeah, I thought there was en passant, so I didn't calculate it, but black is, if I remember, winning after that, and I took a while to calculate that whole thing, but then I didn't see that I could just push a5. However,
is this winning, really?
I think you could plug it in. I think that it was like +2, something like that.
Where did I mess up? Oh, it is a4. You have to find a4 as well. How crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, but that was really good on their part because now, I mean, again, now you're effectively down a pawn, so it's really, really smart on their part. And then I just don't even know if you can hold this.
Here, I think I already got the feeling I'm losing. The king's gonna get in.
I mean, I don't know how he's gonna win. I'll tell you that. I mean, he's got to mobilize these pawns. Probably how he's gonna win, but I mean, in a way, we self-destructed just because we were so convinced that he was going to win that we didn't put up much stubborn defense. By doing this, we just let him cakewalk into our position, win these pawns, and make a queen. Okay. Okay, here's kind of my thoughts on your chess. You're a good chess player. You're doing well. I have to be really, really picky to find some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. I think that you are a bit more tactical than positional, a bit more. It doesn't mean you're not positional. It means just that, or maybe what I mean more is that you do kind of, I don't know if you naturally go for more complicated positions, but you definitely seem to, regardless. Um, I'm mostly concerned with what I'm not finding, I'm always, again, you're only showing me a select thing of games. Um, I didn't see a clear instance necessarily, other than that really good game where you just lost at the end, where I know what your plan is. Where I'm like, oh, I can tell what his plan is. He's doing this and that, and that makes sense because of this and this. Um,
Right.
like, yeah, where like you like I get the feeling like we don't size up the position enough and just figure out, okay, what am I supposed to be doing, and then do it.
Hmm.
Um, I think that especially in the lower time controls, we start to panic and we just kind of try to go from move to move, and we lose track of our bigger ideas. Um, Again, if it was me setting goals for you, then um, you need to increase the frequency that you are trying to make use of the positive factors in your position.
Hmm.
like like literally calling them out, like, this is what's positive about my position, what am I doing about it?
So this is one thing I have noticed when am at my most confident, and often I'm on some kind of winning streak, is because a lot of times I'm streaming, almost always actually, and I'll notice that I'll be pointing out sometimes what's good in my position, but also I'll be like, well, I'm better here, and that was a mistake, at least I think, by my opponent, and here's why: because look at their bishop. Their bishop is totally blocked in. Look at my bishop, blah blah blah. And I've noticed that very often when I feel very confident and I'm winning a lot, uh, that is kind of what's happening. Is I'm pointing out like, well, actually, look, my position's pretty good, and I know I'm better, or I'm pretty sure. I'm at least going to tell myself that in my head that I'm better, and here's why. And it goes much better. Oftentimes I win, and that is definitely not what's been happening somewhat recently. Um, so yeah,
Then how about that's the goal? The goal is to, and again, maybe there's a way, I'm sure, that you could try to find a way to quantify it. Like, in a game of whatever time control, you need to you need to kind of do a breakdown of what are the positive aspects of my position, and what am I doing about those, or what am I doing to make use of them.
hmm
And like, give yourself, okay, like, in like, at first I'm going to make sure that I do that, I don't know, 3 times a game: once in the opening, once in the middle game, once in the end game. If I make it there, we're just like, okay, what's going on, what do I got what do I have that is better for me, what is my advantage, my superior aspect, and then what am I doing about it.
right.
And then if you get to 3, try to build it to 4. um but again, I mean, like, in reality, um yeah, there's just kind of this general awareness of, here's what's going on in the position. Here's what I'm supposed to be doing according to the position, and then searching for tactics along the way.
hmm
And then having that good psychology of just that calm, confident way of playing chess, and just kind of glancing at my time and pacing myself while I, build up those positive things, use those positive things, and look for that tactical opportunity.
hmm
I mean, that's really what it is.
hmm Would you say, if I were to just focus on that, because sometimes you can get too encumbered if you're trying to focus on too many things in one chess game? Obviously, I think I need to work on time management, but do you think it would be reasonable to try to fix like very concrete quantitative goals, of like, okay, here's what I'm going to do for time management, and here's what I'm going to do, for the almost like advantage capitalization, it sounds like,
It's
or just
definitely it's going to be a balancing act. Nobody knows Wesley better than you. When I personally do it, I focus on one thing I'm working on at a time.
mhm,
And I keep focusing on it until I feel, or I have some documentation saying I am making progress here.
mhm,
Um, but if you do feel like, no, I can have that buzzer going every 20 seconds, as well as, you know, whatever, that I'm going to have something that keeps me on my pacing while making sure that I have at least 3 good moments a game where I break down the position, figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, and then obey what it tells me to do confidently.
Right.
So again, if you can juggle those things, but yes, you're absolutely right that as I mean, someone who's working on me with my golf, I'm terrible at golf, but he's just like, I'm gonna make these adjustments. I'm gonna tell you these things that you need to do. Now, when you actually swing, forget everything I just said and
Right.
just swing. So yeah, I mean, if you're trying to juggle and think about too many things that you're working on or whatever, then like I said, the 2 biggest reasons why people make mistakes: time, energy. If you're juggling all those things, then you are burning a ton of time and energy. And so you're going to be the one who makes that mistake and blunder first.
Right.
Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, I do need to start wrapping up. Is there
Yeah.
any like final things that you had?
Um, well, I
Or
think that was really what I wanted to at least get was like some concrete goals for me. And I think this is also really useful for anyone who's watching. I think that that's it. I'm going to try to implement that stuff. Um, and then, of course, we'll see you next week for a very different session. We can run the ideas that we had by you. Both of us had a kind of unique.
sure, like I said, if you want to play me, I'll do my best. I promise nothing. It might not be the performance of a lifetime, but I will certainly try.
no,
Um,
no problem.
if I was you, if I was Wesley, I would be doing a few things here. I would be, again, if I could juggle it all, I would have a timer going off every like 20 seconds or 25 seconds for my rapid games or something that is cueing me in to be like, okay, you should be making a move by now or
Right.
something like that. So you can kind of work on that pacing. I would
Right.
set a quantitative goal of, like I said, 3 times a game, start off with that and try to find a way to hold yourself accountable. And if you find that you're doing that, then up it to 4 and, see if you can keep upping that. I
Mm,
would also, again, there's the last thing I'll say is this. If you want to make progress at anything, this isn't chess, this is anything. 70%, maybe 80% of our improvement comes simply from, do I like what I'm doing so much that I just want to engage in it on a daily basis? Okay, you got to be engaging on a daily basis. Training on a daily basis if you're being really specific. The other 20 to 30% is you got to have someone who's better than you that can guide you.
right.
And the final part is you got to compete.
Right.
Kids that play basketball casually are not as good as kids who play basketball on a competitive team.
Right.
Chess players who play casually with their friends are not as good as chess players who play in tournaments. If I was
Right.
you, I would find the next big tournament in your area and I would sign up for the hardest division. Not only would that put you in a motivated spot to start really training, and I think it would be good material for your audience. But you would also be setting yourself up to play some really tough players and push yourself in that way.
I've
And again, that's gonna. I promise you, even if you play tournaments online, nothing will. You'll never take it as
I know.
serious as an in-person tournament game, and that seriousness will push you to that next level. So again,
Yeah.
training, coaching, competition. You got to have those 3.
I wanted to just quickly comment, and then, of course, I'll let you go. But I wanted to say that earlier when you were talking about kind of osmosis, just trying to absorb by virtue of being, you know, with or in proximity to very good players. And I kind of thought about, again, learning languages is very similar. Eventually, you can learn a lot of, you can learn a lot speaking with someone who is not a native in that language. Eventually, if you want to like, become fluent and fix all your mistakes, you need to be practicing and speaking and being corrected from masters, right? Um, and I have noticed that I've really wanted to get back into over the board because, I mean, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but also a lot of these players in the 10-minute games, 15-minute too, they play so fast. And a lot of the times I'm losing because of time, but I do not get the impression that the emphasis is on like, whereas where if I go and play in a tournament and I already have, I mean, I'm getting absolutely crushed by some of these opponents. This was a year ago, last time I played like a classical tournament. And it is definitely challenging and inspiring when you're like, okay, I got completely, I mean, they just steamrolled me, and not because it was time, but because they just played a really good, solid game of chess. And I noticed that I did see an improvement in my online chess. I was less focused on the results and the rating. Um, so yeah, I definitely agree there. That is
Last piece
pretty
of
fun.
advice I'll give you: use Zen mode, use focus mode.
Focus mode
Don't
on.
focus on yeah on chess.com. Don't look at the ratings. Don't
Can you
focus
do
on it.
that? Like, is that a setting?
Yeah.
Oh, you
On
mean
chess.com, there's focus mode. On lead chess, there's Zen mode. You
Zen
can turn it
mode?
so that you do not see your rating or the rating of your opponent. You simply see their username.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna look into that. I do it full
Again, it's
screen
just
sometimes,
because
but
all it does is take you away. Anything that takes you away from what is going on in this position in front of me.
hmm
Where are there any tactics going on? And if not, how am I building the positive aspects of my position and what am I doing with those things?
right. Yeah, it's certainly honestly the fact that you always have your rating right there on the screen. You have that on like a on the sheet, I guess, if you're at a tournament, I think, but that's at the end, isn't it? But when you're constantly able to look at like your time, your opponent's time, your rating, your opponent's rating, especially if it's a
And it
stronger
happens in
opponent.
real tournaments too. People, it's happened to all of us. We go to our pairing, and it's like, oh, thank God, I'm playing someone 200 points lower than me. It
Right.
should be, I should have this. Or, oh my God, I'm playing the master. I'm so screwed. And
Yeah.
then you set yourself up.
Yeah.
You set yourself up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. But no, lots of good stuff here today. And then we're on for next week, right?
Yep. Yeah. I'm
Awesome,
looking forward
sir.
to
I
it.
do need to bounce and get some dinner, but it
Get
is
some
such a
dinner.
pleasure to get to work with you and hang out. Again,
Me as
you've
well.
got a lot of good stuff going on. That game that you showed me, where that little checkmate at the end, that sacrifice on D6, again, that shows creativity. You definitely have the right stuff to become master, if you ask me. If you're willing to play that creative and push yourself, you have the right stuff. And that's a lot. Or again, even if the content is let's break 2000, in your mind 2000 is simply one little step because you're aiming for 2400, you're aiming for
Right.
2500. That's really what you're going for.
Right. Very interesting. I might ask you about that next time, but I appreciate it.
All right, sir.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and pause my recording.
Yeah.
If there's a certain way, it's probably going to be kind of big. If there's a certain way you want me to send it, like Dropbox, I don't know if you want to email me
Yeah.
your Dropbox link or something.
I think I might have canceled my membership. Let me see if that's working. I've heard a bunch of people saying Google Drive. I don't know if that's possible, but we'll find some way to get it over. I can always pay for another month of Dropbox or something.
I mean,
And
there's other things that let you transfer bigger files and then make them downloadable. There's other ways, but just let me know how you want me to send it,
yeah,
and I'll definitely get it on over to you, sir.
I might just edit this thing. We'll see how the footage is. I know the connection was getting kind of choppy at points, but it might just be, you know, my point of view is good enough. I got you, I got the board, I got me, and so I
You're
appreciate
doing
it.
good stuff. I'm proud of you, buddy. I hope you keep it up.
I appreciate it. Really.
All
All right,
right,
thanks,
sir.
Jesse. Go get
Until
some
next time.
dinner. All right, next time.
All right. Bye for now, buddy.
Later. All right. So the stream is still going. I have ended the call with Jesse. Let's see here. This. So it looks like we only got a couple people left. There's some people watching and tuning in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and probably edit the video tonight, depending on if I really want his footage. Um, and then just kind of go over and note down what his actual advice was, because I think there's a lot of really good stuff there. But um, and I still have these games. So I am going to run. I think I need to go wash my car to take pictures of it, and trying to sell a car right now. Um, I might be streaming later tonight if anyone is watching. Might be streaming later tonight. Although I kind of like really want to let all of that be absorbed. Come up with a plan for those very concrete goals. I'm going to set myself like every game. I'll try, okay, here's 20 seconds per move. And I need to stick to that or try my best to stick to that. And write down, like in a spreadsheet or something, um, to track it all. And then noting when I have an advantage in the position or the good things that I have going, taking note of them and what do I need to do to improve on that and capitalize on that. Because I really liked a lot of that, a lot of the psychological advice that he had. Um, Pretty encouraging too, honestly. The last thing he said about you have what it takes to be a master. Number one, I don't know exactly what he means by master. Number two, I find it very interesting. That's very nice of him to say, but I find it very interesting what is possible, especially when you start chess at an older age. Like I started seriously playing. I knew how to play chess, but I started playing. I think I was 23 or 24 because I mean, I can look right now. Like whenever I opened let's take a look. My chess.com account was basically when I really started playing. I opened it 2020, so October 2020. So really, okay, it's only been 4 years. For some reason, I thought I was coming up on 5 years. Is that right? October 20. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. Anyways, interesting topic. What is possible. Certainly, we've seen people go 0 to a 2000 elo on chess.com in like a year. It's been done. I've seen that. Although it's the exception. That's like any faster than that. I think I've seen 8 months. But that's incredible progress. And then the question is, well, if you reach 2000 elo on chess.com and rapid, first thing to be noted is that that is not the same as 2000 over the board in reality. Uh, and other people might say different things, but I have heard pretty um, consistent, people say consistently that your chess.com rating or your online rating is usually 200-300 points more depending on the platform than your over the board. A 2000 rated player over the board is much stronger, I guarantee you, than most 2000 players on chess.com. Anyway, so it's all very interesting. Um, yeah, I love that. So I'm gonna go wash my car, I guess. Come back, maybe stream. Come up with a little plan on how to implement all that into my games, and then maybe be video editing. But yeah, I might hop on and stream later. In any case, this will all be put on to chess, or sorry, on YouTube. I'm going to edit a video, and there will be a full video cut down and edited a little bit. So check that out. And then if you guys are watching now or later, like we were saying, next Tuesday, October 8th, I believe it is, same time. So that'll be, and I messed it up on the other videos. I messed up the time. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're in Colorado, both of us, me and Jesse. So it'll be 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time or 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, October 8th. We're going to have Jesse doing another potential lesson, but also just another stream with another YouTuber pillaging pony chess. And he's a little bit stronger than I am. He's been like about 2000, between 2000 and 2100. So it should be pretty interesting. Check that out. We will be live streaming it. I'll be live streaming it again and making a video for that. So and then lastly, if you guys, want to check out the Discord server, we have all the announcements. I'm going to be having tournaments eventually with some prizes, lots of cool stuff. So check out the Discord server. I appreciate you guys all watching. If you like it, please subscribe, like it even. It really helps me. And I will see you guys in the next stream and or video. Take care.